Okay, so one of the things we're very proud of, since we are such a small group, there's only 35 paid members in our group, you know. We started a scholarship back in 2008, and since that time, we've given almost $30,000 in scholarships. So we're very proud of that. Okay, this is a very tentative agenda for today. I don't know if we're going to continue in this order, but these are the things that we want to get through. Some of them are very short. James was not able to attend, so he sent me a really short video of kind of explaining some of his new projects. It's only about 3 minutes, and so I'm going to go ahead and start with that. And then I will stop sharing my screen, and I will let John share his screen so that he can talk. Okay, so let's go to James here.
Hi everyone, it's James Prineas here, coming to you from sunny Australia, where I'm visiting my mother. And Vicky asked me to say a few words about what I'm working on at the moment. As you might know, I've been making films on Kythera for a few years now, and I also made Kythera from the Air and Kythera Family Net and a few other things. So at the moment I'm working on another film called The Oracle of Kythera, starring our favorite actors Poppy and George and the blind taxi driver and a few others. The script's almost ready, and so we'll be planning to shoot in the next 12 months. So that should be out within a year or two. And I'm also working on a sequel to Kythera from the Air, which is more or less a Kythera from the ground. It will probably be called Kytherian Villages, where instead of seeing them from above, we'll be much closer to the ground, so you can see all of your family and favorite villages in some detail, including small maps and some other detailed pictures of the villages. So that's also on the cards. What else am I working on? After the fires last year, there were quite big fires, as you probably know. I'm developing an app which is supposed to help the fire brigade and the volunteers organize themselves better. And I'll make sure Vicky has a link to that she can pass along to all of you. We've got a prototype already up, and I'm just working on that at the moment as well. I think that they're the main projects I'm working on at the moment. But I've probably forgotten something. I spend a lot of time on the island now with my wife, and so when you're on the island, let me know and we can get together for a coffee.
Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce John. I think most people know John, but there's a lot that don't. So he is not Kytherian, but he first came to Kythera in the early 70s, and he built his house there around 1982. And then around 2011, he moved permanently from London to Kythera. And he organized the first annual Kythera Photographic Encounters, which is a 3-day international event that ran every autumn until 2017, and then it moved to Crete. In 2010, he helped form a new political group called Kytherian Initiative. I'll let him talk about that a little bit if he wants. 3 years ago, he arranged for the donation of the substantial Kytherian photographic archive to the Greek State Archives in Hora Castle, where they have been allocated a small space for rotating exhibitions. He's also a member of the 6-person steering committee for the new citizens action group called Kythera Green, which, if we have time, he will talk about a little bit later. He's going to be talking about the issues that have been happening on the island in the last couple of years. There's been a lot going on. So, John, I have made you a co-host, so you can go ahead and share your screen anytime you want.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, I've been asked to give a rundown on some of the major events that happened over the last couple of years on the island. And a hell of a lot has happened. But I'm going to start off with a cheerful item, which is an update on the wind turbine question. Now, this year saw 4 critical developments, which between them have almost certainly sounded the death knell of the project. Now, in July of this year, the Ministry of the Environment decided to accept the environmental impact study applied to the protected Natura areas of Attica and the Northern Aegean, which of course includes Kythera. On August 1st, the environmental impact study was formally accepted by the General Secretary for the Environment. What this means is it completely bans the installation of industrial wind farms in any area coming under the Natura 2000 network. This resulted in the automatic cancellation of 21 out of the 30 programmed wind farms. On the same day, the cherry on the cake, as it were, the Greek Civil Aviation Authority declared its formal opposition to the installation of the remaining 9 wind turbines, which were planned for locations outside the Natura area and therefore not included in the Ministry of the Environment's bans. And the Civil Aviation Authority decided that they would have to ban these because being placed within 10-kilometer distance from the Kythera airport, they would interfere with the DVOR radio navigation beacons and hence pose a serious risk to the flights in and out of Kythera. And fourthly, the Organization for the Natural Environment and Climatic Change has officially come down against the complex of 3 wind farms that had been proposed by Terna Energy. And as though to confirm the good news, during the course of the conference on tourism, which took place a couple of weeks ago, Mayor Charchalaki stated quite unambiguously that he considers the issue of wind turbine farms on Kythera to be essentially dead. Now, the fight against the installation of wind turbine farms on Kythera has been effectively and extremely efficiently led, on the one hand, by Dynamo Kythera Citizens Movement, and on the other hand, by KYPA, the Kytherian Foundation for Culture and Development. Both these organizations have warned us that despite the victories mentioned above, we need to remain alert and make sure that these decisions are actually applied and confirmed in practice. And as the saying goes, the price of freedom from exploitation is eternal vigilance. Right, the single biggest event on the island this year has been the wildfires. Now, in 2017, Kythera suffered a major forest fire that burnt down almost 9% of its total area. And that fire revealed very many weaknesses regarding the management of the fire. On July 26th of this year, a fire broke out in Prineas near the hospital, and almost exactly at the same place, the same departure point of the 2017 fire. It was to follow almost exactly the same route as in 2017, but it had significantly more devastating effect. A second similarity, an unfortunate one, was that once again we experienced winds of 6 to 7 knots, gusting at times to force 10. Force 10 is getting close to typhoon strength. So the other thing that made this a very difficult 48 hours is that there was a barrage of fires across the entire country, 55 in total, brush and forestry fires, all on the same day. And the result was the expected one: there was an acute shortage of aerial support. Unfortunately, 2 of the Canadair planes allocated to Kythera, and keep in mind that the total number of Canadairs operating that day was no more than 7. So 2 of them were called away for refueling for a critical 3-hour period. And during that period, the fire moved on towards Aronyavica, Perlengianica, Arei, Milopotamos, and then turned south towards Myrtidia, Vani, and Drimonas. Now, ground forces, which were constantly reinforced from the mainland, and lots of volunteers, most of the resupplying of the fire trucks was carried out by locals using the farming vehicles, tractors, and water tanks. So the ground forces managed to contain the fire at Aronyadica and Kalokerines, and the settlements which had been given priority were saved. While everything indicated that the fire had been brought under control in those first 24 hours, the fire crossed the main road near Kyprotianica, developing a new front which headed east and threatened Viaradica and Mitata. It seems that the breakthrough took place between the Milopotamos and the Kyprotianica junctions along the main road. And even though there was a fire brigade unit parked at either of those intersections, it seems that neither of them noticed the breakthrough. And it was a passerby on a moped who alerted them to it. By good luck, by early on the morning of the 27th, 2 planes reinforced by 4 helicopters and strong ground forces managed to contain the fire, despite the very strong winds. Now, a significant point to be made about Kythera wildfires, and this one in particular, might come as a shock to some listeners, is that as wildfires go, it was not, compared to other forest fires in Greece, all that destructive. There were mercifully no casualties of any kind, nor even any serious medical incidents. And except for a couple of abandoned and isolated dwellings, there was no significant damage to human habitations. The reason is that brush fires of this kind in maquis or garrigue terrain catch fire very quickly, and they go out just as quickly. As they approach settlements, modern settlements built of brick or breeze block or ferroconcrete, they tend to burn out as they approach even a wall. Houses that are surrounded by trees are, of course, much more vulnerable, particularly if the trees are pines. Thankfully, we have never had a wildfire reach the forests north of Karavas, and that would be a major debacle. Olive groves suffered badly, of course, and though individual trees have amazing powers of renewal, the groves that were burnt will probably be of no economic value for at least a decade. The damage to the landscape was considerable, but there again, maquia and brush regenerate naturally very quickly. We've already had some days of rain since the fires at the end of July, and even in the desolate area approaching Milopotamos, where the entire valley was burnt, you can see the ground regenerating. Grass first, then flowers. We've actually found orchids appearing, and the brush will start regenerating this winter. So the actual damage to the brushwood areas, though it looks pretty awful, will have healed within 2 or 3 years. So that's the good side. Wildlife obviously suffered. And other animal casualties were beehives and bees in the Milopotamos area, an unknown number of sheep, and also the cats kept in an unlicensed animal shelter near Rizes, whose foreign owner had been warned to evacuate them, but neglected to do so. So what were the causes of this fire? As the Kathimerini newspaper reported that same week, the likely causes of the weekend's major fires, including that of Kythera, appear to focus on the well-known inadequacies of the rural electrical distribution network. And hopefully this put to rest some of the more hysterical conspiracy scenarios whereby the fires were due to the dark machinations of Turkish agents or immigrants or anti-Greek elements of one kind or another. Indeed, the point of the initial outbreak was located by the fire department, as I said, about 150 meters south of the hospital. That area is covered in scrub oak and has no agricultural activity, is not crossed by any roads, making it almost impossible to establish arson by negligence. On the other hand, the fire brigade did find a burnt and damaged cable lying on the ground in that particular spot. Reuters on September 24th was unequivocal, investigating the cause of a particularly deadly wildfire near Athens. The familiar culprit was once again a loose power cable which had sparked. And it's clear, again, according to Reuters, that faulty power lines have been the leading cause of wildfires this summer and previous summers. There's an invaluable study which I can recommend to anybody interested in the subject of wildfires, published in 2022. It's called Innovative Action for Forest Fire Prevention in Kythera, published by the journal Sustainability. And I will send Vicky the details. It's partly academic, but partly has some extremely valuable suggestions for prevention. And the conclusion of the study is the following: the inability of firefighting mechanisms to control fires, which exceed certain levels, lead to strenuous efforts to improve firefighting capabilities. In other words, a quick fix management strategy, focusing on fixing rather than preventing problems. Current scientific thinking calls for shifting the focus from fire suppression to mitigation, prevention, and preparation. And therein lies a lesson, I think, for Kythera, which hopefully has been learnt both by the municipality and the fire brigade. So that completes my report on the fire.
John, can I interrupt you for a second?
Of course.
Michael said he has some great photos of the fire, so I'm going to allow him to share.
Absolutely. There were some wonderful photos taken by lots of people.
Okay, so he's going to go ahead and share some of those photos. Did you get that, Michael?
Yeah, I'm trying to get them in, but are they coming up?
Well, you have to share your screen.
It says you have to let me share them.
But I made you a co-host, so you should be able to.
Try again.
We have to share your screen, Michael.
Yeah, you have to share your screen, but you should be able to share your screen since I made you a co-host.
Where do I go for share the screen?
At the bottom, there's a little green button right in the middle of the toolbar.
Yep. Only the host can share this meeting, it says.
Okay, let's see.
Michael is not listed as a co-host.
Okay, well, let me try again. You look for it at the same time. I just tried to make.
There could be a limit on the number of co-hosts, by the way.
While we're waiting, also, there's a person called iPhone. Can you change your name, please? If not,
Yeah,
let us know.
I tried to.
Do it for you.
Yeah, I sent them a message to do the same. Yep.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
I don't know how people feel about not knowing who's here. If you are uncomfortable, we can remove them because I don't know who it is.
Yeah, Vicky,
did you see my? Sorry, I tried to share my screen. Did you see my video of the fires during John's talk?
You know, I saw something pop up and then it went away.
Okay. I can show you his photos. They're probably better than my video anyway.
Okay, hold on. Let me find him again. Okay.
Michael, you having trouble? Do you want me to come up and have a look?
Yeah.
Okay, any of the other co-hosts can help me look to find him to make him a co-host. For some reason, it's I don't know if my screen is freezing.
It's possible that we've hit a limit on the number of co-hosts.
I don't think there is. I looked that up yesterday.
Okay. Because I looked and I couldn't make him a co-host.
Okay.
I was unable to.
All right.
Yeah, he's
temporarily remove.
Here we go.
Yeah, come down. We'll do them on your computer.
Try now, Michael.
There we go. Now we.
Hang on, Amalia. Yeah, hang on.
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
Did that come up?
Yep.
That's a Kyltherian nest.
Wow.
When you spoke about those big, so we were staying in Kyltherian nest when this happened. And John, that was, just to give you an idea, these photos are over about a 15-minute period. That's how quickly it spread.
Wow.
Did that second one come up?
Yeah.
And yes, we evacuated.
Oh my gosh, that had to be scary.
Yeah, we didn't stay there for a couple of nights.
It was very, very surreal. The funny thing is, it was scary, but you felt safe. But the locals, a lot of them just didn't leave. They stayed there, and they just stayed. And the next morning, I'll show you a photo. The next morning, from on the way
Michael,
to
you paused your screen sharing.
Yeah, we don't see anything.
You've lost your video too.
Okay.
Hang on, I'm coming up. You lost your Zoom?
There we go. It's back.
Can you see him? Okay.
We see it, but nothing. Is this just a photo?
Yeah.
I don't see anything moving.
Yeah, they're just photos. But as I said, it was very, very, very surreal. I'll send you
Michael, when you're finished, I'll show that video because the audio will tell the people just how windy it was.
yeah.
What was happening over 48 hours? People kept getting alerts on their mobile phones telling them such and such a settlement or village had to be evacuated and telling them what direction to go in. And it did strike some of us at the time, I mean, those of us who were close to the fronts, that some evacuations turned out to be or appeared to be unnecessary. And later I spoke with the fire brigade and kind of asked them who was behind it. And I was told that basically it was the municipality that decided when they wanted to evacuate a village, not the fire brigade.
Also, would have been unsure which way the winds would be turning too, because they were so gusty that day. I'll put my video up. Hang on.
Yeah. Did that one come through?
Yes.
I'll put about
from
5
our
or
roof.
6 up. Yeah. Can everyone see? I'll put about 5 or 6 up.
Wow.
Can everyone see those?
Now this is still Kytherian?
Yes.
Wow.
So luckily that fire turned, but there was so much smoke and there was ash for days.
Jeez, I bet. Well, and I bet the air really was hard to breathe too.
It was. That's why we evacuated. Just you couldn't
Yeah.
breathe. And as I said, we're getting ash off the house for days. Michael, let me know when you're finished, and I'll put the
Yep.
15. I've got a 15-second video.
Are these coming up? I'm not
Yes,
sure
Yeah.
what
yes.
people are seeing.
Now we've got the street.
Yeah. Look, I'll put this one up as the last one. Actually, what I'll do, I'll show you 2 photos now. Now, this just gives you an idea. This photo here that I'm putting up now, Amalia was asleep, and I said, Amalia, I said, I think you better come and wake up. This was about 3 o'clock. That was at 2:59 in the afternoon, and then so that photo there was 2:59 from our bedroom, and then this photo here that I've just put up now is exactly 15 minutes later. This
Michael,
second
hasn't
photo
changed.
there, does that come up there?
Wow.
That second photo?
Yeah.
That's exactly 15 minutes later. That just shows how intense.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the wind that just blew up with it.
Michael, I'll put my video up now. Stop sharing your
Do that.
screen.
Yep,
And I'll
yep.
do the video. Hang on, just let me go back to the video for you. Where's videos? For those who know Kytherian, here's the windmill at the end of the village, heading around. There's the one. Other in Kytherian place as well.
Wow.
So I think that really showed, you could tell by the sound how windy that day was and how unpredictable the winds were.
Yeah.
That fire ended up, actually, that was the one that turned and went to Drumonis instead.
And I'll finish with this last photo. This is where the icon of Matithia, and this amazes me how everything gets burnt out.
Wow. Wow. That's something else.
Anyway, back to John's talk. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, John. Sorry to interrupt you, John. Thank you.
Not at all. Lovely to see them. That's a great photo, by the way.
Yeah, it
Thank
is.
you, John. Thank you.
Okay, John, you can carry on if
Okay.
you want.
Okay. Right, the next subject is equally important, but it's going to be a little bit less dramatic and a bit drier, I'm afraid, which is basically that we're now involved in a complicated town planning and urban zone issue. Very briefly, last year, funded by the EU, the government began a major revision of urban planning in every single municipality of the country. And for each municipality, there is going to be an in-depth study. The process is a very complicated one. It's carried out in several phases, and in principle, it's accompanied by consultation of the local inhabitants at every stage. Now, the timetable called for studies to be approved by the Supreme Court by the end of 2026, with implementation to be followed by direct presidential decree. Now, the actual studies are carried out by a committee of specialists. They include a representative of the municipality concerned, and the result is 3 detailed proposals, which they call scenarios. And these, at the end of phase 1, which we've had, are presented for discussion and online comment. Now, the municipality of Kythera was among the first to be considered. And the results of phase 1 were presented to the elected municipal and local representatives on February 7th. Now, of the 3 alternative scenarios, number 1 was essentially a laissez-faire proposal, which left things more or less as they were at the moment. Number 2 was described as mildly interventionist, and number 3 as intensely interventionist. And it should be noted that the municipality only let us know about the consultation 4 days earlier. And comments on the ministry website could only be posted for the subsequent 5 days. Now, I attended the meeting and was able to make, I think it was one of only 2 non-elected people present. I was able to make a formal protest about the very brief time allowed, only to be told, quote, "That is the procedure," and get stuffed. Over the next 2 days, people started commenting on the ministry website, and about 95% of the people who commented expressed support for scenario number 2, in other words, mildly interventionist. Mildly interventionist means that the proposals would allow for development and tourism development, but keeping it within measure. In other words, it would not allow gigantic hotel projects, 300-room, 5-star hotels and the like. And it indicated concern for both the natural and the cultural environment. Now, what happened on the last day of consultation, the leader of the main opposition group suddenly proposed an alternative scenario number 4, which hadn't in fact been part of the package of proposals. Now, the proposal included a number of bombshells, such as no fewer than 2 yacht marinas, 2 cruise ship harbors, a float plane docking area, the establishment of several industrial zones, a commercial and business park, a conference center, an art and sculpture museum, and of course an extension of the airport runway. Next day, there was a bit of a surprise on Kythera, because a joint press release by the municipal council and the main opposition party of Mr. Souris both rejected all 3 of the town planning group's proposals in favor of the scenario number 4 I mentioned above, which had been devised by the municipal councillor and contractor, Mr. Mangonesos. The press release prioritized maximizing development at the expense of almost everything else, and of course carefully avoided mentioning that everybody who responded in the consultation was firmly in favor of a moderate development. The characterization in the press release of the very large majority who voted in favor of scenario number 2 and mild development as supposedly nurturing, quote, mentalities of stagnation was both offensive and deeply untrue. And the voters were seriously expected to believe that KIPA, the Kythera Foundation for Culture and Development, which supported scenario 2, was, quote, permeated by mentalities of stagnation, or indeed that the Kythera Island Tourist Accommodation Association, which several of you will know about, called Cherigo, which also chose the mild development scenario, nurtured apparently attitudes that respect neither the island nor its permanent residents. Well, Nemesis followed rather briefly after that, because a few days later, 10 members of Mr. Souris's party walked out. And we're now in the middle of waiting for phase 2, which is already a month and a half late. The whole process of formulating a new town planning policy for Kythera is grinding on, and it's already well behind schedule. The issue, however, has been complicated by the government's very ill-judged decision to simultaneously begin redefining local building zones. Now, this is an important issue because it means that under the existing situation and existing legislation, let us say, everybody knows what the urban limits beyond which you can only build on 4 stremata are. So this is the case now. Every single village, you can build on unoccupied land of almost any size if it's within the urban limits. The moment you go beyond the urban limits, you need a minimum of 4 stremata and this is very important, a facade on an acknowledged legal road. Now, it's obvious that a new town planning legislation and new local building zones are very closely intertwined. You can't actually legislate on one without legislating on the other. So what apparently has happened is the government has decided to wrap these 2 issues together. And this is going to drag on for some time, I suspect. An additional problem we've had for at least 2 years, and it's now become fairly acute, is that the roads on the island that are marked on all the maps, including the maps that you will have, those of you who have properties, you will see that the roads are marked as Aphrodite agricultural or Kinotiko municipal road. Well, it turns out that both the municipal roads and the agricultural roads are in fact not legal. The only roads that have a legal existence on the island are the main roads, in other words, Potamos, or rather Agia, Pelagia to Kapsali, and the road going to the airport. Those are regional roads. All the other roads that we have been thinking of as perfectly legal are technically not legal. And the reason for that is that for many years, everybody has, including the municipalities and including the Ministry of Works and the Ministries of Environment, have essentially turned a blind eye to this problem. Everybody has pretended that, yes, these roads exist and they're legal. Apparently, some years ago, I think about 3 years ago, somebody presented a case to the Supreme Court saying that all these roads were illegal. And the Supreme Court deliberated and they looked at the legislation and they said, actually, yes, you guys are quite right. These roads are illegal and we cannot legalize them. They can only be legalized by presidential decree. So at the moment, essentially land sales have frozen in the sense that anybody wishing to buy land to build on would probably be, almost certainly be advised by their lawyers not to do so until the question of access to roads has been resolved legally. They can still go ahead and sell, you can still sell, they can still go ahead and buy, but they'd be buying what may turn out to be a pig in the poke. So at the moment, things are fairly fraught. I should add, to avoid people worrying too much, that even if the urban zones are redefined, this will not affect existing houses or houses which already have permit to build. In other words, even if suddenly your property finds itself on the wrong side of the zone, it's not going to affect its legal status. You could be affected by it if you own land within the zone, which, because it didn't, the 4 square meter limit didn't apply, you thought could be sold or could be built on, it may turn out that you can't. Now, again, reassuringly, when these proposals go through, there's going to be a committee of Kytherian civil engineers examining every single one of them and fighting over every single one if it appears to be excessive. And remember, we still have a major consultation to come, both on the town planning and on the urban zones. But anybody with property on Kythera or anybody interested in the development of Kythera would probably do well to keep a close eye on developments here. And developments are not always advertised very well. We on Kythera Green are definitely keeping an eye on things, and we will be publishing updates as possible. And we already, in the first consultation, published an extensive document giving our views, and we will certainly be involved in the consultation for phase 2. But the more information goes out and gets across, the better. So that concludes what I had to say on that issue. That's really where the 2 major issues I wanted to bring up. There was a question on recycling, and I've got some brief information on this. Now, as you may know, the old rubbish dump at Lachnos, where they used to regularly set fire to the rubbish, has now been, and this is one of the successes, I have to say, of the municipality, has been replaced by what is known as the Kythera Sanitary Landfill Site, the HITI, Χώρος Υγειονομικής Ταφής Υπολειμμάτων. And this includes the provision for the collection, storage, and disposal of recyclables. Now, the site is managed by a department of the region of Attica, the Ειδικό Διαβαθμιδικό Σύνδεσμο Νομού Αττικής, and they have in turn subcontracted to a private company. Now, the last figures I was able to get hold of say that in the year 2022, a total of 228 tons of recyclables were transferred to the regional recycling center for recycling. And the municipality made a profit of, I think, a few tens of thousands of euros, because the recyclable stuff is actually quite valuable. Now, why this has occasionally comes up, and why I suspect it was a question again for today's meeting, is that quite often people will see the rubbish trucks going down the road, emptying the rubbish bins, and people have seen the rubbish collection people open the blue bins, which are technically for the recyclables, and dump them in with the rest of the rubbish. Now, I've discussed both with the municipality and with the people at the recycling center, and indeed with the people working the trucks. And what they say is that the problem is that Kytherians, by and large, are not very good at recycling. In other words, if they find a green bin full, they will cheerfully dump household rubbish in a blue recycling bin. And quite often, when they open the blue bins, they will find animal carcasses or household rubbish. And they are under strict instructions from the municipality, when that happens, to dump the stuff in with the everyday rubbish. Why? Because 3 times a year, the people from Attica come to collect the recyclables, and they are shown where they're kept. And if they notice that there's a lot of crap in there, they simply refuse to take it. So if the rubbish collectors add to the pile of true recyclables contaminants, then basically everything collected in the previous 3 months is refused and becomes a dead loss. So yes, the recycling could work a damn sight better, but only if Kytherians could finally be persuaded to show even a smidgen of the kind of German self-discipline. I mean, Germans have bins for 8 different kinds of recyclables. In England, you have different bins for green bottles and clear bottles and brown bottles. We don't even need that degree of accuracy. We just need people not to put household rubbish in the recycling bins. You would think it's simple enough, but apparently not. So I think you've probably heard quite enough from me. Happy to answer any questions on these subjects or any others that I might know something about. Otherwise, thank you for listening.
Thank you, John. Kathy, you've got, or do you have your hand up, or you were just moving your?
I just wanted to thank John for that great report. That was really very informative. Thank you, John.
Very informative. Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening.
Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to say I'm so happy about the windmills. Thank you for that, that update. It just seems like that took forever to get resolved, and thank you so much for everything that you did to protect our island. So thank you.
Well, I was only peripherally involved in that. It's basically the people you should thank are Dynamo, who were at the forefront of investigating the legal aspects and taking the issue to court, and of course Keeper, which provided massive financial and administrative support. So it's those 2 organizations that really did it. And yeah, they deserve very warm thanks from all of us.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Can I ask John, does he know about the skip bins, not the green bins, not the blue bins, but the other general waste skip bins? How often are they supposed to be collected? Monthly, weekly? Because they present a problem when they're full. People just dump their rubbish on the sides.
They are a disaster. The first big project we did with Kythera Green was basically the revival of the Aloisianica pond, which is at the top of the Scleri Pass. About 8 years ago, the municipality put one of those enormous bins there. And as you say, the result was that accumulated rubbish and rubble choked the entire area. We contacted the municipality, and they very kindly arranged for the bin to be taken away. And then we've cleared the rubbish and fenced it in, and it's remained, thank God, untouched ever since. But bins are a problem in themselves because there's only, I think, 1 truck that can actually handle them. As we know, the resources of the municipality are limited. And at the moment, the biggest problem is the bin area to the northeast, I think, of Potamos in the woods, which is basically an open-air rubbish dump. Yeah. To my mind, they should do away with the bins. But there will obviously, people will object to that. Bins are those big, and this means the really big ones, which are technically for furniture, non-recyclable goods, and even some kind of building rubble. And they are a magnet for all kinds of crap. Disposing of rubble is a problem. Disposing of rubbish is theoretically solved by the new site. The best plan I've heard of for dealing with rubble is for every time there's a building permit is issued, the town engineers should calculate how much waste and rubble will be produced by that construction. And then a fee charged according to the volume of rubble produced by the construction. And the obligation for that rubble to be taken to a designated spot, or maybe two spots, one in the north, one in the south, to be unloaded there, and no other disposal of rubble to be allowed anywhere else. Now, that's one more bit of administration, one more bit of bureaucracy. But at the moment, to be honest, in the same way that the waste from cesspits is, as we know perfectly well, dumped down ravines, in the same way, most building rubble is dumped anywhere they can get away with it. So unless strict and obviously somewhat onerous controls begin to be imposed, I think it's going to be an ongoing problem.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do is take a little break, and I think we're going to, let me just ask the group what they prefer. First of all, you can unmute yourselves. So we covered quite a lot of information, and John, that was a lot, and we have more to cover, but would the group prefer to move on with speakers or jump into a breakout room for about 10 minutes and allow people to just get to know each other a little bit? Let's see, raise your hand if you want a breakout room, or a 1 for a breakout room, a 2 to continue. Breakout room or continue?
Will there be refreshments?
Okay, first question, breakout room. I mean, first number, 1 finger for a breakout room, 2 to continue speakers. What do we have here? Let's see, somebody count for me.
Lots of 2.
Looks like speakers are winning, Vicky.
Okay, so let's continue with our speakers then. Okay, Helen, are you ready to go? You're muted. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Vicky. Thank you. I thought someone else was preceding me. Is that right?
Well, oh, actually, you know what? Let me see. Andrew had asked to come on a little early. Andrew, are you ready, Andrew? Do you want to? Okay, I'm going to let Andrew go. And then after Andrew, we'll go to Helen.
Mine is pretty brief. First of all, I want to commend Sam on those technical adjustments at the very beginning. That's been very helpful so far throughout this session. Secondly, I just saw my daughter click in, Teresa Galakatos, and she's tech savvy. She promptly put her location right after her name. Anyway, the reason that I'm on here is going on at this time at the University of Missouri St. Louis. There's a program celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the Kyklos, the Circle of Glory monument. That was an American creative landmark permanently installed at the Olympic Stadium in Athens, Greece for the 2004 Olympics. The vision of Kyklos was created here in St. Louis and then developed there in Athens by the internationally renowned iconographer and artist Euripides Kytheris, otherwise known as Rip Kytheris of St. Louis. Now go to Google and enter Kyklos, K-Y-K-L-O-S, Circle of Glory exhibition, and you'll be able to scroll for more information. And there's a lot of interesting items on that particular link. It's interesting. It's worthwhile you're doing. And aside from Kyklos, our 102-year-old St. Louis Kytherian George Cerise, maybe hopefully joining us a little bit later on with the technical help of his family. So that's basically it, Vicky, unless there's any questions.
Any questions? I thought I heard somebody say something. Okay, speak up a little because I can't hear you.
It sounded like a thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. Okay, we'll go back to Helen now. I think most people know Helen. She's the president of the Kythera Museums of Kythera. And she's always been our star at these meetings because she has been the main one that has been sharing all the news from Kythera. So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Kythera.
Thank you, Vicky, for that introduction. A lot of familiar faces, of course, over the years. I think we've become friends on these global Zooms. And anyway, I'd like to say something about the Friends. We had a very, very good year for the Friends of Museums of Kythera this year. We had a lot of events, very well attended, extremely well attended. And we usually start from about February, March. We had 3 book launches. We had our annual fundraiser, which was a huge success. And not only socially, but also it was probably our best fundraiser ever. And all these proceeds are going towards the costs of the plans and the museology study of the Migration Museum. That is our major project. And we had a cocktail party, a lovely American couple, Nellie Katsoulis, she's actually New Zealander, and her husband Ed gave us their house, their home for the evening. And we had a wonderful cocktail party there with about 120 people that evening. And this is actually becoming an annual event. And what is unique about the Friends is that we have such a very international membership. And as John Stathatos knows from Kythera Green as well, all these non-Kytherians, I can say, are very, very active in Kytherian matters and very concerned. And I think without their support, we wouldn't be doing anything, and we wouldn't be getting anywhere with the museum project. Now, as far as that is concerned, the plans have been ready now for several months. They have been submitted. We had to make some changes. They've been resubmitted, but we are stuck on some technicalities and bureaucracy in with the Council of Architects. Hopefully we'll go over that hurdle. It needs a little bit of pushing, but hopefully we will get that moving, because we really have to move on with the plans. The ambitious plans for the museum, some of you may not know, it's a 3-story building of 740 square meters, but it's not only a museum, it's also a cultural center, which will give a big lift, a cultural lift to Agia Pelagia, which has nothing at all of cultural interest, apart from hotels and tavernas. So everyone is rather excited that this building will provide a meeting place for various functions, exhibitions, and because the Academy of Athens is involved in the museology study, the plan is for the museum premises to also become a center of learning, education, and research. Anyway, where we want, of course, everyone's help is with the family stories. And we have some contributions, but we really need to start getting a lot more contributions towards this goal. But what we will do, we will circulate a lot more information on that and what is required and how you can contact us and provide your family stories, because it will be rather nice for your children and grandchildren to come to Kythera and press a button find their family name and find their history and etc. And the other project that we have undertaken is because John mentioned rubble. We also the license has been granted to demolish the old school where the museum will be built. And I understand from our architect and in discussion with the mayor of Kythera, Charchalakis, the rubble will be transported. It is very costly because it will have to be transported not to the north or to the south of the island, but across to the Peloponnese. And this is an excessive amount of money, and I don't know where the council will have to find this money before looking for funds for the building. Anyway, because John mentioned the rubble, I thought that was a very interesting point. I never ever thought that the rubble would have to leave the island and go across to a designated landfill on the Peloponnese. Anyway, we're hoping that we've had a long time to wait. We're hoping that we won't be waiting much longer to get the final plans and the building license. And you'll hear about that as soon as that happens, because we will be celebrating in one big way, because it's taken us really quite some years, 2 or 3 years, to get to this point, and we're still stuck a little. We have another project underway, which is actually it's the brainstorm of Angelo Venardos, who will speak to you in a moment about that, and why we're doing it. And Angelo will be speaking in a couple of minutes. But Vicky, if I may, can I just say there are 2 little other items apart from the museum that I'd like to mention?
Sure.
If it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's happening right now. It's olive picking season on Kythera. For 2 or 3 years, we haven't had a very good olive harvest at all. And this year there is a bumper crop for most people. But what is the problem? There is an aging population. There is no labor, hardly any labor to collect the olives. Now, the price of olives oil is about €4.5 a litre. Someone picking olives, a team, if you pick about 100, I can't remember how many, but you might pick 50 litres a day with a team of 3 workers. And you know what the daily salary is for these workers? It's between 60 to 80 euros a day. Now, if you have 3 workers, the cost is prohibitive. People are not going to be able to collect their olives anymore because there are hardly any. The foreign labor that is on the island is more interested in other things. They've gone into the building trade. Very few people are available for olive picking. I don't know if John will agree with me on that score.
No.
You don't agree with me?
Well, I'll comment afterwards. It's complicated.
Okay, all right. But it's a major problem on the islands. You can't get people to harvest your olives. And anyway, it's just, if anyone has olive fields, I just think that the price of oil is very, very low in comparison to the cost of collecting and pressing your olives into oil. That and the other little thing was I was speaking to Koukoulis, the former mayor, who has now taken over the role of administrator of the hospital. And the hospital has major problems, of course, lack of staff and lack of materials, pharmaceutical materials and things like that. And people have been complaining about the state of the hospital. And he did tell me that he is trying very hard to get a few things, to get new doctors in. But the major problem again here is for doctors and teachers who want to come to live on Kythera, the shortage of housing, the accommodation is absolutely not available for them 12 months of the year. And sorry. Sorry. Anyway, that's I just wanted to mention those things. The problem of accommodation for doctors and teachers, major problem, because any homes that are available are all let out for Airbnb rather than around the year rentals. And so we have quite a few of those problems here, which are quite substantial on the island, and it prevents young people staying on the island and working here. So those are the 2 or 3 little comments that I wanted to make actually on that score. And we'll keep you posted as far as the museum is concerned.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, you sent me that wonderful PDF this morning from Angelo. Is Angelo still here? Where,
yes,
there you are. Angelo, do you want to share your screen? Oh, you're muted, so let me unmute you. Or I could share that PDF that Helen sent me.
Okay, I'm unmuted now?
You're unmuted, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm making you a co-host. So if you want to share, you can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, good morning, good day to everybody. Whilst it says I'm in Singapore, I'm actually in Sydney at the moment. So just a brief background. My grandfather had the Cafaneo at Caravaa, which in later years Bully used to run, and Bully was my father's brother. And I've been based in Singapore for the last 25 years. But in more recent years, I spend 3-4 months a year at Agia Pelagia and 3-4 months a year in Singapore. So that's a brief background to a Kytherian in Singapore. Can everyone hear me? Because I see Vicky looking around. Okay, right. So briefly on the book. The theme of the book resulted as a result of my observation is that a lot of people go in August and they spend their time either on the beach or in the restaurants, but they don't really get to see Greece, Kythera all year round. So with the collaboration of Kostas Koronaos, a internationally recognized fashion photographer, we've come up with the theme of the book, which we've labeled Aphrodite is Here. And we're looking at the island through the lens over 4 seasons of the year: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And we're looking at the people, the landscape, the antiquities, the mythology, and the archaeology. And the idea of this is that whilst there's been many, many good coffee table books done on the island over years, this one will be quite different. And we're working with a renowned publishing house in Athens called Melissa, who do all the high-end books. And this book is going to be pitched as a high-end gift rather than just another coffee table book. So with the collaboration of Kostas and equally important, Helen from FMK, all the proceeds of the book will go towards the museum, the Migration Museum. The status of the project, which started about 12 months ago, when Costas and I made a presentation to the Aroni Foundation here in Sydney, who gave us their support, subject to what other contributions we could receive from others, be they financial or otherwise, is now nearly 12 months in the planning. But I'm happy to say that we've now submitted about 300 photos to the publishing house, along with the writer's contribution. So we've found someone Kytherian to write on each of those sections on the antiquities, the archaeology, the people of the island. So we're now at the point where, with the support of the Aroni Trust and other financial contributors, about to give the project a start, in that we're now going to be in the formal planning stage with the publishing house to get the book going. And we anticipate a launch at the Frankfurt Book Festival in around about September 2026. So it's a very exciting project, because the financial contribution towards FMK's museum will be significant, based on the projections that we're doing at the moment. Anything else that I should add, Helen?
No, I think you've covered it.
I would like to share while you're
Yes.
talking, I'd like to share that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The flyer or the PDF that you sent me, is that okay to share, Helen?
Yes.
Okay, you
It's quite
continue
big, but
talking.
you might just want to
I'll
show
scroll
a few
through it. I'll
of the
scroll through it.
photos. Yeah.
You keep talking and I'll share my screen. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. No, just show it. And it'll give everyone an idea of the quality of the photos. They are, and that's the museum, by the way, everyone. One view of the museum. And
this is actually a mock-up of the concept. It's not the actual book, but it's a mock-up of some of the, to give you an idea of the theme of the photos, the quality of the photos, and obviously what the aim of the book project is with respect to the museum. What we have here is some fantastic photography by Costas. As I mentioned, he has worked previously with Vogue and other fashion magazines. So this is going to be a very much an artistic book presentation, rather than of the highest quality. And as I said, whilst there have been many other books done on the island, all very good and contributing, we expect this to be taking the whole concept to a leap forward in terms of the quality of the project.
Yeah. The projection here doesn't do the photos justice, of course, as you can imagine, but they are incredible photos. Costa has done a lot of exhibitions on Kythera, but not only on Kythera, and internationally as well.
The main thing is trying to capture the four seasons of the year, and looking at the people, landscape, antiquities. You know, there's so many, as I mentioned at the very beginning, so many people go to the island over summer, spend time on the beach, go to the restaurants, and don't realize that there are Byzantine and renowned churches on the island, that some of the antiquities in the old churches are just unique to the island. And in fact, the recent fires have opened up some walls which we weren't aware from the archaeological point of view that there've been previous settlements there.
Wow. These are fantastic.
And when I talk about people, we're trying to capture the philotomia of the island.
And of course, it will be in both languages, English, it'll be bilingual, English and Greek.
Yeah.
You might have said this already, but I was, kind of multitasking. Did you say what size this is going to be?
It's interesting because the original photos were a landscape, traditionally for coffee table books, but the feedback we're getting now is that it should be something that can stand up in a bookshelf. So I don't actually have the specifics at this stage because the publisher wants to get all the photos, all the script, and then the design people will start to work out the actual logistical mechanics of the book itself.
Mm-hmm. I can see it as a coffee table book like James Prineas's Kythera from the Air, quite large.
The challenge with that is that whilst that sits on a coffee table book, it doesn't fit on a in a bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that we're challenged with is weight, because whilst it's been published in Athens, we want to be able to distribute it to America, to London, to Australia, and obviously weight will be quite prohibitive in when you start exporting books around the world.
Yeah. Well, it looks like a wonderful project.
This is just a sample of the photos. I mean, some of the photos that are they're really quite original and very, very extremely high standard. And I think they don't really show up that well on the screen. Anyway, so that's our project. Thanks to Angelo, who's got it off the ground, and we hope we'll have it on hand in September, and a book launching on Kythera as soon as we can, and we hope that everyone will get their orders in for the book once we get it off the ground.
Thank you.
I should hasten to also say that we're hoping that you won't buy just one, you'll buy 2 or 3, because the quality of the book is that it's going to be like a gift. So when you come back from Kythera after the summer break, you'll bring back a couple of copies as gifts, because it's not just one for your own home, it'll be one for your Kubara and one for the children. And so it's really going to be presented as a gift rather than just another coffee table book.
Thank you again. Okay, I just want to make an introduction once more, or say hello to George Soudis, who joined us just recently with his daughter. And George has come to many of our Zooms, and we're also always really excited to have him here. George was the treasurer of the St. Louis Kytherian Society for how many years, George? I'm going to unmute you. Hang on a second. How many years?
How many years were you treasurer of the Kytherian Society?
Kytherians of
30 years.
And he, I understand, Andrew just said that he just stepped down from that position. Is that right?
I think it was a while ago.
Was it a while ago?
Yeah.
And he was also in the choir. And George, do you want to share your age?
Tell him how old you are.
I'm 102 years old. I'm shooting for 120.
He's shooting for 120. We are really glad you're here, and you look great. Okay.
And I've got all my hair.
That's right. At one of our Zooms, he shared a book that he wrote. It was kind of an autobiography, and it was wonderful. Just wonderful. Okay. I think we're going to take our group picture. So if you have something that has to do with Kythera that you can show in the picture, I'll take that. We'll put him in the picture. And my other co-hosts, Sam, Terry, everybody else, if you guys can take some screenshots with your cameras too, we can have several to choose from, so we can try to get everybody smiling. All right, so I'm going to do that with mine. right here.
That's it.
When I'm ready to.
Just hold it up. Just hold it up this way.
I'll wait a second to get everybody ready. Let's see. Spiro, do you have anything? Kathy? You guys are Kathy, you guys are muted, so we can't hear you.
I'm using my screen background as my contribution.
All right. Okay, everybody ready? Oh, wait, Kathy just went somewhere, so I'll wait a second. Hopefully she's coming back. Oh, I'll start. I'll take a few. Okay, Angelo, the only problem is we can't see you now, so maybe you can move that. There you go. That's better. There you go. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Kathy's got something now. Good. All right, here we'll do several of these. Ready? Okay. And again. I don't know if the people that don't have their videos showing can hear right now, but if they want to show their picture, they can be in here too.
Yeah, I see only 4 that don't have their cameras on.
Yeah.
I'm taking a bunch of screenshots as well, Vicki.
Thanks. Okay. So let's see. Spiro, would you like to? Okay, Spiro is on the board of the Kytherian Association of Australia. And several years ago, there was a committee for the migration monument in Agia Pelagia. And the person who started that was the president at the time, Emmanuel Alfuris, who happens to be my second cousin. And he got a team together of people from, I represented the US. He had somebody from Canberra, somebody from Queensland. We had Angelo, and I can't think of his, Helen can probably help me with his last name, who was where is Helen? Anyway, so we met for 2 years planning this monument that was going to be in Kythera, in Agia Pelagia, and people could submit the names of their relatives who had immigrated from the island, and they would all be engraved on this monument. Are most of you familiar with that? Spiro, do you have any pictures to show? Because if you don't, I do.
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay, so I'll share my screen with you real quick, and I'll show you a little bit, and then you pipe in anytime you want, Spiro.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. Okay, wait a minute. I'm not seeing what I want to see here. Hold on. Let me try this again. Okay. This is the Migration Museum that Helen was talking about earlier, and you can see a little arrow where it's supposed to be proposed. Okay, so the migration monument is supposed to be up, on this area up here. And here's a couple of other pictures. And there was a link where you could submit names to be put on the monument. So we met, and we had kind of come to the conclusion that we really liked this one artist. However, he was pretty cost prohibitive, and sadly, Emmanuel passed away suddenly. He was the head of this committee, and everything kind of came to a standstill. So Spiro is here today to kind of give us a little update on that.
Yeah. So thanks everybody, and apologies from Barbara, who's been sort of heading this up on our behalf. So there has been a little bit of work this year in terms of talking to some artists to get some more design ideas and some ideas around how much this will cost. At the moment, we've raised around about 26,000 Australian dollars for this. And we think, and some of and as Vicky mentioned before, Some of the initial estimates came in much higher than that, so we're still a little way short. But we are going to pick this up again now following Emmanuel's passing. We'll reform the committee and get back working on this. But there has been this year some discussions with a couple of artists in terms of getting some ideas around what the final design. The final design hasn't been agreed on as yet. So there's still a little bit of work to do, but then also, in bringing the cost down. When I was in Kythera in May, I did raise this topic with the mayor because
get you repositioned and standing up. Are you sore?
Oops, somebody.
Yeah, I did meet with the mayor in May and on this topic. I raised this topic with him, and he said that the area that's been allocated is still okay. It will need to go, once we come up with the final design, it will need to go through local planning approval and local, just as it does with any new building. So, but he will assist us in that process, and he's supportive at this stage anyway. So it will still take some time, as all things do in Greece, but be assured that we're going to pick this up again in the near future.
Any questions about that? Okay, so if you haven't submitted your names, get them, because this is a one-time thing, and once it's built, there won't be an ability to add names to it. So it's pretty.
Yeah, we've left that that link open. It's not closed, so we're still open to taking more names and obviously more money as well.
Please put that link back up on the screen.
Okay, let me do that real quick.
Yeah, Vicky, I also suggest you put it in the chat. People can grab it.
Maybe could you copy it from here? Well, wait, maybe I can copy it. Hold on. I'll do that. I will.
I can, but I'd have to sort of type it by eye, and I'm sure I'd miss something.
No. Here, I think I could do this.
You can cut and paste.
I don't know why. It's just, yeah, here we go. I'm going to put it in the chat. So you can get that link right there in the chat. So just remember where, when I had the link up, it was $100 in Australia, but at the time that we had our luncheon in September, $100 in Australia was only $66 in the US. So it's a bargain for us, and you need to buy one for each person. So one for your grandmother, one for your grandfather. If you have other people that immigrated, one for each. So, okay, we are getting close. Okay, I'm trying to determine. Should we have Amalia go next? I know John Stathatos wanted to talk a little bit about Kythera Green. John, how much time would you think you would need for that?
About 3-4 minutes.
Oh, why don't you just go ahead then and do that?
Okay, well, Kythera Green is what is legally known in Greece as a civic action group. It's the simplest and cheapest form of association. And it consists basically of a group of largely, what I would call incomers, non-Greeks who've built houses here or who live here most of the year round, Greeks from other parts of the country, not many locals. It's basically incomers. The common language is English, though we have at least 5 or 6 nationalities. And the object is basically various tasks to do with preservation of the Kytherian environment, both the natural environment and the cultural environment. And we're project-based in the sense that one of our members will come up with an idea or something they would like to promote. And if there's enough interest, they will put together a group and do that. As for example, we've got a group that since over the last 6 months has gone in for cleaning public spaces, beaches, or roadsides. And we do this in conjunction with the municipality, who then come and collect the large bin bags that we fill. One of the major projects we've done, it was, as I mentioned, I think earlier, the resurrection of the lake at the Aronadica Lake at the top of Skliri. And we've done that in collaboration with a couple of Swiss botanists who were the ones who discovered that the lake is actually not only a very valuable environmental resource, but actually also houses some extremely rare plants, including a water ranunculus. And as I said, this was a site that was basically a rubbish dump and has now become a flourishing small lake that houses both frogs and various kinds of plants, and of course it also attracts migratory birds on their way through. And I think I also mentioned earlier that we were involved in town planning, in studying the proposals and talking to civil engineers and then proposing our views. And we take part in conferences that have to do with the development of the environment. It's basically a softly approach. We're aware that essentially none of us are native Kytherians, and we try very hard not to tell people what we think they should do. On the other hand, our philosophy is essentially environmental. Our approach to questions of development are that moderate development is good, but we definitely would not like to see Kythera turn into another Mykonos or Paris. Not so much because we would find it unpleasant or uncomfortable, which we would, but because it would be an economic and environmental disaster for Kytherians as well. Because what's happened in all the islands that suffered from over-tourism is that outsiders and outside companies come in and reap most of the benefit, whereas the inhabitants are the ones who have to deal with the wrecked environment and the fallout from lack of accommodation. I think Helen mentioned the question of the teachers and doctors now avoid coming to Kythera because they have nowhere to stay. One of the issues we would like to promote is the restriction of Airbnb accommodation to what it was originally. You may remember that when Airbnb came in, the idea was that people who had a spare room in their house could let it out for a small income. What's happened in Greece and elsewhere is that entire quarters of Athens and large chunks of Mykonos have now been bought up by Russian and Hong Kong companies who are undermining the local hotels by providing Airbnb accommodation, which incidentally is not subject to either safety or hygiene regulations that hotels, even the most humble, have to subscribe to. So yes, Airbnb, I think, has been a disaster, certainly across Europe and certainly in Greece. And we would love to see it cut back to what it was originally. One single unit to be rented under Airbnb regulations, let us say per tax number. And certainly not as a corporate or business opportunity. So anyway, those are some of the issues that concern us. And we have a membership of about 120 people. Not all of them are on Kythera all the time, some are visitors, but some of us live here pretty much permanently. And we have activities going on throughout the year. We meet regularly, and everybody is free to make proposals. to be followed up. One of the current proposals, for example, we talked about rubbish disposal earlier, is putting up signage, making it clear what kind of rubbish is permissible in the blue bins, so that at least people can't say that they're not aware of the regulations on this. So that's just a brief outline of the kind of activities we do. Vicky, I think that's it for me.
Thank you, John. Okay, Amalia, would you like to go next?
I'd love to.
All
Yes,
right.
us from Sydney, everybody. How are you? I'll just give you an update on how our project is going for the last year. So as you know, we've been doing the family history of the whole island, trying to put it all together. So our file now has 72,074 people. We have 240,000 individual events, stories, birth, marriage, education, and donkey ownership in 1820, lots and lots of information. I've got 491 different sources, books, websites, archive documents, videos, everything. We're up to over 10,000 media items. I know that's amazing. We started off collecting a few photos. I thought I'd be happy if I got 500 people identified with a photo. This morning I ticked over, where is it? I ticked over 3,580 people. So now I'm going to be disappointed if I don't get to the 4,000. Of those photos, 1,825 people's photos have been identified by Kalie and I. Photos of graves, photos of internet, photos of documents. So I actually think that's amazing. I didn't think there'd be that much available. Speaking of graves, I now have photos of 3,577 graves from all over the world. A couple of years ago, I took a photo of every grave on the island, and every year I go, I still find a grave next to a church that was locked in the past, or, you know, this year I brought back 4 or 5 more graves. You know, I'm finding them all the time in Kythera. But even then in Sydney, Kalie and I every now and then go for excursions to cemeteries. I know it's fun for us. My husband doesn't know this yet, but we're going to Perth in a couple of weeks, and I have a list of people that are buried in Perth. So hopefully I can drag him along to the cemetery with me and get a couple of photos there. I've also got 3,758 signatures of people. Now, at the beginning, I thought this is a bit strange, but to me, you see a name on a page, it's just a name. But when you see a signature, it makes you realize there was a person standing there with a pen or a quill writing this name. It sort of makes them more real. I know it sounds strange, but to me, a signature makes the person more real. So I do have them attached to people on their files. Now, this year, I don't know if you've seen them. Most of you probably have our Yassas videos. I was in Greece and thought, what can I do this year? And I thought, well, so many people asked to get their family tree done, and they don't know what Kythera is. They've never been, you know, one person said, oh no, sorry, I was wrong. I thought my father was from Kythera, but he's really from Serigo. And I'm thinking, well, it's the same place. You don't even know it's the same place. So I just started to do some walking tours of some of the villages, and that grew bigger than Ben-Hur. We had in total so far over 500,000 views on these videos. Now, when you consider there's only so many Kytherians around the world, I think that's amazing. And yeah, and the reason I do this, I had one person contact me personally, and she said her father left Kythera 50 years ago and had never returned, and he was crying watching my Via Radhika video. He hadn't seen his home village for 50 years. I was in Pottermore one Markets Day, and the teacher of Pottermore School came up to me and she said, thank you for your videos. You've really inspired me. When school goes back, I'm going to get the children to research their own family trees and ask family stories. This is what it's all about. This is why we do all this. We need to encourage these stories. We need to let this information not die with the people. We needed to keep it going. So that's what Kalie and I have been trying to do since about like 2011 or something. Also, you may notice I've got my databases online on the website. Some of the information available on them is amazing. So I was reading some old Greek newspapers. So I'm putting any stories that I find on the people's files. But the important thing I'm reading there is the social news. You know, I'm finding engagement, or roughly a month somebody got engaged. I mean, that's not an official document, but you can still find that. Deaths of people that the certificates are unavailable to us. Births of people, just trivial information. Like there was one thing just from memory, this is a story not in the social news, but it was a man, an elderly man needed a helper and he had this guy working for him. So they became very close and this elderly man said, I'll give you a parcel of land when I die. So he had his will drawn up. A few years later, they had a bit of an argument and the guy said, I'm going to take you out of my will. So he went to the officials to write in his will. The official said, we're too busy, come back in 2 days. That night, he was found dead in his home with a head injury. So these are little trivial stories. When the certificate would just say this man died, it wouldn't have that story or the backstory to that. And that guy, actually, the younger guy, was accused of murdering him. They took him to Athens. There wasn't enough information. He got away with it. So I think he murdered him. There's also a story about a young woman who was sort of abducted by gunpoint for a potential rape. Her brother stepped in, the brother got shot and killed. So there's some very, very interesting stories I'm finding in these newspapers, and these are all added to each individual's files. So, you know, in the future, we will publish it one day. I don't know how, but we will. This will be available forever. So people, you know, generations to come will know what happened to their families. I've got plenty more newspapers to read. I'm only up to, I think it's 1961. The newspapers online go up to about 2010, which will be the newer ones would be not, I can only do information for people born less than 100 years, more than 100 years ago. So a lot of that information will be irrelevant. But currently, the 1960s, I'm getting deaths of people that I can't find information for, and little obituaries about them as they're dying. So that's some great information. Another new database I've added since I've come back from Greece. In Australia, when somebody wanted to be naturalised, they had to put just a little short ad in a newspaper. You know, I Nicholas Aroni, Anastassopoulos, intend to apply for naturalisation. I'm of Greek origin. I live here. I've been in Greece, in Australia this many years. And I've got one here. I'll just read it to you. This is my grandfather. I, Nicholas Anastassopoulos, of Greek nationality, born at Serigol, Greece, and resident over 5 years in Australia, now residing at the Paragon, Skinner Street, South Grafton, New South Wales, intend to apply for naturalisation under the Commonwealth Act. Now here, and it says underneath, I intend to apply under the name Nicholas Langley. So I know when he arrived, 5 years earlier, this was in 1928. I know where he was living in 1928, and being the Paragon, it's a cafe. I knew he was a cafe worker. Some of them actually have the occupation written on there. But the important thing, the very important thing about this is it tells you what name they take in Australia. So in this case, he was Nicholas Anastassopoulos, but he has said he'll be Nicholas Langley. But some of them would say, you know, I, Nick Caridi, rather than Caridis, like CEEEDY. You know how they spell their name in Australia. So now you can go and look at newspaper articles, you can look in National Archives, you can look elsewhere and find their information. So this is very, very important. So on our databases, you can look up. I spent a whole week going through the newspapers online. It was confusing because there's so many different ways to spell surnames, so many different ways to spell Kythera and Aronyavika and Karavas. So it's there it is. Thanks, Vicky. They're down the bottom. Keep going down. Oh, yeah, there's somewhere. Naturalisation one's in red. I found about 1,800 in total. It's about 1,000, or more than 1,000 people, because they had to put 2 ads in. Sometimes I found both. Most of the time I didn't. So have a look there. Your ancestors might be on there. Now, leading from that, I have spent the last, God knows how long, since I've been back from Greece, since I finished that, going through the National Archives of Australia site, and I have downloaded, done this a couple of years ago, but I've now downloaded 1,480 new files from the archives, naturalizations, travel documents, certificates of naturalization. One thing I found, Vicky, if I let me share my screen, I'll put this one up actually. This one's important. Where is it? Here it is. So let me just open that. Yeah. Open that. Share my screen. So this, you don't know what you're going to find till you actually find it. Let me just find. Share. So this was made by Nicholas Lorendos. In Australia, he was known as Linos. He was known as Golden Tenor or the Greek Tenor or something like that. And if you scroll down, he wrote a song. And here's his song, here's his writing, here's his lyrics, all available on the National Archives site. You don't know what you're going to find till you open a file. So I'm in the process of going through all these. Literally yesterday, actually, I'll go back to sharing. I've opened this one for you, Victor. Share. What's this one? So this one just happens to be a Lambros Vretos Kypriotis. I wonder if anybody knows who that is. This is his actual naturalization certificate, that he would, a copy of what he would have been presented at the time when he got his naturalization. And down here you have where he was living, his name in Australia, Lambros Vretos Kypriotis, known as Leslie Kypriotis, 24 Sandringham Street, Bondi, his age, his occupation, the date he thinks his birthday is, which is never the same as the birth certificates, and we don't know why, and his brief description. That signature, unfortunately, is not his. That's a transcription saying that he was that he signed the document. So hopefully on Tuesday there were 550 or something of these found. The whole series on the National Archives had been completed, so I found 560. There is a second series that has more on it, and that hasn't been done yet. But hopefully on Tuesday, I will have a database, or Wednesday will go up online, and you'll be able to search your person. I will give you the National Archives reference number, and then I'll give you instructions on how to find it on the National Archives site. So some of you may never have seen your actual certificate of your grandfather, and you'll be able to log on to the National Archives and download that if it's there. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, yes, I showed you about the copyright of the song. But look, as you can see, so I'll tell you. Oh, so I also forgot to say I had 320,000 different citations on my website. That is 320,000 places I have found a fact, and I've got 240,000 facts. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I had 148,000 sites. We're now up to 320. So we're really flying through this. We're getting a lot of information done. We have so many trivial pieces of information. People don't understand how complex our trees, how detailed they can be. When this goes on, like all the war records from National Archives, for example, have all been uploaded on the National Archives. So I've downloaded all that I could find. I've entered all that information into this person's file. So I can tell you, I didn't go into the details of what division they were in or where they were fighting. I did simple things like when they went, they went to medical hospital, what was wrong with them? So many of them had tonsillitis. So many of them actually had a tonsillectomy while they were in the army. I didn't put in any diseases that people don't need to know about, but I did put in things like when they had annual leave, leave with pay, leave without pay, when they went AWOL, and some of them you could sort of, I think some families might see, he went AWOL, he got married in that time and came back, or, there might be some family story that's, hang on, my father was conceived about that time while I was during the army. So it might have some relevance to people, but there's some really interesting information in those war files. Oh, look, I can't even think what I've written down. I'm always working on this. I spend 8-10 hours a day. Like this morning, I've been up since 5 in the morning. I've done an hour and a half's work before Vicky went online. So I'm always on my computer. If I'm home, I'm on my computer. We're flying through this. One day we will publish this, and we will make this available to the world, and we will keep these people's memories alive, hopefully for generations to come. And that is what we are aiming for. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Amalia. I'm going to share something here real quick. I don't think people realize the amount of work that you and Amalia, you and Kalie.
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 Hi, can you hear me?
Kalie just got on, I think. Hi, Kalie.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I can't work something's happened to my camera and I can't work it.
Anything you want to add? I don't know whether you heard all my things. Was there anything you want to add about what we've done this year? I didn't mention what you had done, so do you want to just catch people up?
So basically, I don't know if people understand that we're still, after how many years, Amalia? Maybe 10 or 12 years?
12, 15.
We are still trying to upload all of the translations that we have done from how many records do you think are there, Amalia?
60,000?
Yeah, and
Something
they
like
are
that.
the ones that were uploaded to GAC as photos, but would just still be sitting as photos if it wasn't for Amalia and I translating them and then unleashing them to the diaspora. Because
making them
although
available,
some of them
searchable.
were done years ago as books, but they're all in Greek, how many of the diaspora can actually read Greek? So Amalia and I have taken it to the next level, and we think that when we are gone, our website will still hopefully live on, and generations to come will be able to find their families using our website from all these records.
And look, one thing I want to add, I was telling Vicky yesterday, but Kalie, her Greek is fantastic, so we got a lot of information out of the archives this year. But we found out, so there are so many, tens of thousands of documents that have been scanned, ready to go onto the Digital Archive site, and nothing has gone up for a couple of years. And Kallie's found out why. Do you want to tell them, Kalie?
Yeah, so, okay, the way it used to work is the digital archive that is on that Greek archives website was done maybe 15 years ago. It was scanned locally by an archivist and then sent up to Athens, who then sent it on to a person up in Thessaloniki, a company that were doing, a contractor, that were doing the final, you know, making sure that the scans are clear and whatnot, and then sending it back to the archives, and the archives were uploading it. What has happened is, for some reason, that person, it sounds like it was one person, fell sick years ago, and then he hasn't been able to release the rest of it to the archives because he has lost the code for the uploading.
He's lost the password. So nothing is being uploaded.
You would think that somebody, this is the National Archives of Greece, you would think that somebody would have had a copy of it, but no.
Yes. No. So what they're going to do is, the only thing they can do is start a new site and then upload all the new stuff to a new site. And that is going to be, what do they say, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, but the scary thing which is happening, which
2 or 3 Greek years.
Greek years, yeah. But the scary thing that was happening is, which is concerning Renata, who works in the archives in Kythera, is that they want to start removing things, taking them to the state archives in Athens, scanning them. She is very, very fearful that they will not return.
Yeah, and I think that's a genuine concern.
And those papers are so delicate.
Yes, some of them are very delicate. She showed us the oldest document they had, Kalie, was 1575 or something. Do you remember?
I took that was one of the rare photos she allowed us to take in there.
Yeah, we're not allowed
they
to
don't allow
it.
photos of any of the documents.
And we're not allowed to publish it.
No.
No, it was 1500 and something. So there are some very delicate information there and documents. And there's so much there. There are hundreds of thousands of documents. We saw the rooms. And then one day they will be digitized, hopefully. But, you know, there's tens of thousands ready to go. But a man lost the password and nothing's going to happen. So that's Greece for you.
So, and as she was saying to us, she is so thankful that at least the records that were uploaded, like the ones we've been working on, at least they are able to find a new life for people in the way that we have been transcribing and translating them. And as I was saying before, although some of those were done in book form in Greek years ago, but you know, they're not available to people who can't speak Greek. So
and also, Kalie, we've also found that we actually read the documents from the original documents, and sometimes when we were stuck, we'd refer to the book to see if they could help us. And some of the books you're finding it now are wrong.
Yeah. So I've I sometimes just peruse the books in entries where I think I'm reading the word, but I'm not getting it right. Well, the other day I just wanted to double check something and see if the book agreed with what I had. And I found 3 or 4 cases where the book was actually saying that a child was dying, but it wasn't. It was so it was a baptism of a child, and then it said, so the baptisms say the beginning of May, and it was saying that the child was dying the end of April. Well, how is that possible? So the person that transcribed it into this book form, it was actually saying, and the child was born on the 26th of April.
And that's what the church register actually said, wasn't it? And they just
absolutely. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I've that one entry, but there's a series of them. And that person, whoever did the transcription from the old records into the Greek, transcribed it incorrectly. Yeah. Having said that, though, Amalia and I are quite lucky in that the digital images are probably a lot clearer than the actual books, which is what they were working from.
And also, we need to explain, Kalie, that the church registers are written in old style Greek. Like Peninta Konta is 50, not Peninta. Yeah. And it's written by sometimes not very educated people, like the Alos Yannicka one. The guy writes like a 5-year-old, and it's all one word. There is no spacing. They will just change lines in the middle of the word. We've seen documents where Yorgos and then Zorzi, the same person, but they've referred to them as 2 different names, like 2 different variations of the name. They were actually complex. It took us 6, I think, years to read the bulk of them. Kalie's now in her spare time, because she works as well. In her spare time, she's reading the last few that were in the book. She's got 2 churches to go. And I don't think people understand just how complex and how difficult some of these were. They had worm eating pages, order damage pages. Yeah, go, Kalie.
I'm actually loving. So I just finished. You would have seen Amalia's message to everyone saying that we've recently uploaded Bandokratora. I absolutely loved doing that one because it actually gave me a sense of how diverse Kythera was at that time.
Sorry, that's in Hora.
That's in Hora, yeah. That's the one. If anyone is familiar with the Castro in Hora, as you are coming up the Castro and then you bypass where they've got the museum for the family crests, it's next door to that. So this was
the archway to the back of the castle.
Yeah, right. This was the church where all the nobility were baptized, had
married,
weddings,
died.
and also a lot of them have been buried in and around that church.
And also, Kalie, there would have been a lot of Kseni, those people that come to the island for work or trade or whatever.
I was about to say that. So it gave me, reading through these records, it's really, really interesting because it gives you a sense of how the population of Hora were, even in Hora, you had the outer churches and then the inner churches of where the aristocracy were. And they give you a sense of how important and how many different types of levels there was as far as government running of Kythera, the social circles, the social what do they call it? The steps of how many hierarchy. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit of pain. I got my hips hurting me, so I'm taking painkillers. So. Anyway, I found it really, really fascinating in that one thing I noticed that the nobility, when someone was getting christened or married, they had about 4 or 5 kubari or nonos.
Which wasn't Victor's happening. Trying to show us a photo of Pantokratora Church. Is that a photo of the church, Victor? Yeah, I think it is. That's inside the church. But I think, Kalie, what you just described just sums us up perfectly. I concentrated on the people, the individuals, what they were up to, who they were. But Kalie looks at the broader scheme of the island and the social structures and the living conditions and all that kind of stuff. And you put us together and we're unstoppable, really, aren't we, Kalie?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, look, individuals, it's all about the individuals for people that we do the family history for. But I think it is also important. It's not just a name on a page. You have to understand these people were living a life in a certain time.
Yes. Some were peasants,
and so all the facts that we're finding and Amalia's putting into the people's descriptions will give you a sense of where, when and how they were living.
Yeah, but I think, Kalie, what you're doing is more of a, like, the general story of Kythera. You can slot your people into that.
Yes,
You
but
know,
Amalia,
yes.
it's also, if we hadn't done what we have done systematically,
Oh, no.
we wouldn't be unlocking these bits of
No,
information.
exactly. That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
for
You're
instance,
analysing the bigger pictures.
yeah, for instance,
Yes.
there was a priest, I can't remember which church he was, and he actually wrote an entry. So he would have had a view of the ocean, and he wrote an entry in his book saying, on this day in 1799, I have just witnessed the flotilla of the French ships coming in to save us. So they would have, that was the liberation of the French from the Venetians.
Yeah.
And I believe he was on the outer part, like, so towards Potamo way. So, you know, they were all under the oppression of the Venetian nobility. So up to then, they couldn't own property. It was until when the French and then later the English came, is that they unlocked the ownership of land in the northern part of the island. And in fact,
See, this is what
all
Kalie's
the
really good at.
Yeah. Well, I did do a degree in history, and you know,
Well,
I love all of that.
That's why you're
so,
good at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've taken up enough time. Does anybody have any questions? No questions? I could
So
talk specific families later.
This is Myrto. I'm actually from South Africa.
Hi,
living in
Myrto.
London.
Nice
Hello,
to meet you this summer.
Yes, hello. I recognized you in a Potamos, in the church in Potamos, from the videos and the that you were uploading on Facebook. So, and I got to speak to Kalie.
Oh, just sorry, before you start, I just wanted to add to that I didn't decide, and Kalie and I didn't know we would do the videos until we got to Kythera. So a lot of that information has come out of our heads. There's probably a lot more we could have included, but this is only what we could think of at the time, what was in our heads, our knowledge at the time. So hopefully next year I might go with a bit more information behind me, but it was just a spur of the moment thing.
So my question is, do you have access to prison records?
No, and I wish I did.
No. So the legal records are the ones that they've taken them up, haven't they, Amalia? Some of them
I think they're still on the island. There are some court records, and there are some police records. They go up to, I think, from memory, 1900, because Lagunari isn't there. And I would love to get my hands on those. But now that the GAC, the Digital Archives of Athens, owns these documents, we are no longer allowed to take photos of them like we were in the past. So we are going to have to wait until they get scanned and put online, and we're talking 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So, you know, down the track, we would love, mind you, the language in those. See, with the births, deaths, and marriages, there is a certain style to how they were written. And depending on the, you know, in the period, say the Venetian period was different to the English period, but in general, there is a flow to them.
A pattern.
We would then need to learn the flow of those documents, those court records, and I'm sure we would be able to then decipher and translate those as well.
A big problem though, Kalie, a lot were in Italian. So the Italian, a lot of documents are in Italian in Kythera. I don't know why, but a lot are in Italian. Obviously,
because I can tell you why. Because
Venetian
when
rules,
the British
but after
came,
that,
when the British came, they still decided to keep Latin as the official language of the Ionian Islands.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of those documents.
Why? I'm not particularly sure.
Well, Latin was big in England at the time too, I think, wasn't it?
I'm not sure exactly
why. I would love to, if I had a choice now, Myrto, as you said, if I had a choice to go to the archive and say, what would I get? It would be the court and the police records for sure.
Yeah, they're fascinating. I mean, Renata had shown me one once, and it's like, they're very involved. But yeah, imagine the information that you could get out of those.
Could you imagine the stories you're going to get out of those?
Yeah. So hopefully the 2 to 3 years, as Amalia said, won't be
2 to
5
3
to
quick
10
years. Yeah. But look, unfortunately, we've got all we can out of the archives at the moment. Don't worry, there's plenty of stuff out there. There's still, as I said, 40 more years of newspapers to read. There's a lot of stories in them.
Can I just give people also a tip regarding the records that are held by the municipal council? So in the past, we were able to help a lot of people who were wanting to do their family trees and couldn't find when their grandparents or great-grandparents were born or died, because that was past the 1865 mark, which is held by the archives. And in the past, the municipal council were very forthcoming. We would tell them, oh, we're doing a family tree for somebody, and they were forthcoming and giving us the information. Well, this year I went for my second cousin, and I told them that I wanted it, and they said, no, we have changed the laws. That person will have to come themselves, but even then we'll have to bring ID. So, and also
prove they're related.
We'll have to email me before they come in to make an appointment and prove the relationship to that person that they're seeking.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time,
documents. And even if somebody died with no children and they've got no direct descendants, we still cannot get a copy of any certificates anymore.
They won't let us anymore.
No.
So, and so I've been telling people, so there was a couple of people that were in Kythera this year, my cousin being one of them. And I said, they will not allow me to get it anymore. So if you are going down the path of searching for a family member, you kind of have to prove to them that you're actually related somehow to this person.
But also
you have to provide them with a photocopy of a passport or your Greek ID, and then you have to email them, and then they will make an appointment for you to go and see them.
Yeah. But also,
so I don't know how that will work remotely. I did not ask her.
But also, this makes the social news in the newspapers that much more important. Makes the information publicly available, accessible to everybody. So I'm going to keep working on these databases when I finish these National Archives things. Anyway, any more questions? Nope. Okay, thank you, Vicky. We can move on.
Thank you, Vicky.
Okay, well, thank you guys. And if you guys haven't seen her website, I put it in the chat. And, go see the videos. Go look at the resources. She's got an amazing amount of information there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is break up into some breakout rooms just so that we can have a chance to chat with each other. So I'll make these for, let's say, 10 minutes, and then we'll just come back. All right.